Shabbat Shalom. Sahorayim Tovim. Good afternoon. Baruch Haba. Welcome to Teaching Ministry of Harlingen Messianic Synagogue. Before we get started, just a few things for you. Josh, I changed my mind. Just a few things for you. We Bible study tomorrow, men's Bible study at 9:30, ladies at noon. So we invite you to come and join with us for that, studying Leviticus chapter 5. Prayer requests today. Pray for Rachel. She's got some situations going on, and so please be much in prayer for her. As well, Brother Raymond. Our Brother Raymond is baptizing today. So we pray for him. Praise the Lord for his ministry and the work that he's doing. Be in prayer for. Daniel is out of town this week. Our violinist, he's out of town this week. The next couple of weeks, he's on vacation. Gabriel's out today. It's that time of year, and we're coming to the end of summer, so everybody's trying to get in their days, right? So, and then school is starting in a couple of weeks. And in fact, Richard and Charity and Josh have to go into work Wednesday, and then starting the following Monday, back to full-time education. So get educated. So be praying for them as well. Angel and Rose going back to work in this week or next week? Monday? Okay, so be praying for everyone involved, all right? Be praying for Israel. If you haven't heard, they were able to take down one of the heads of Hamas a couple of days ago, and also one of the heads of Hezbollah. So they knocked out two people within 2 days. And so, of course, Iran and all of those nations, they're all, on the warpath about that. So pray for the peace of Israel, pray for our own nation and our own government, many things going on. So let's be much in prayer. Please don't forget your tithes and your offerings. And we welcome our YouTubers and our Facebook live streamers. And we do have PayPal and Venmo and several of those cash apps, things like that. So if this ministry is a blessing to you, then please help us out so we can continue. And by the way, and a lot of this has to do with Raymond's teaching because he has quite a following. But our online presence, the last 90 days, we've had over 13,000 people. And we've had literally over 1,000 people that have been watching online, or 1,000 plays online. Not bragging, just telling you that's why we need the money, okay? Because we're ministering not just to the people in this building, but literally all over the valley. There are people all over the valley and all over the world who watch. And so in order for us to continue, it takes money to do this. And so that's why we are constantly asking you, and summer is very hard on us. Because a lot of people go out of town and vacations and things like that and running short of money. And so summer's always a difficult time for us. So if you can help out, we greatly appreciate that. All right. Let's go to Hashem in prayer. Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King, we love you. We thank you for your love for us, for watching over us and guarding us and keeping us in these difficult days, Father. And we know that there are even more difficult days ahead for us. That the enemy knows that his time is short. And so he's on a rampage. And so, Father, we ask your blessing. We ask that you would guard over us and keep us safe, Father. But fill our hearts with gratitude as we were singing this morning for who you are. And Father, that if you have done nothing else for us, it would be enough just that you sent your Son to save us. And so we thank you for the great salvation which you give to us. Help us now as we study. Father, open our ears to hear, our minds to understand, and our hearts to believe, to trust you, to live for you, to be obedient to you. And so bless us now as we gather together around your word. We ask this in the name of Yeshua Mashiach, the Emru. Amen. And so we're studying that Adam is created in the image of God, what that means. And so we're going through the attributes of God, because it is with these attributes, these sephirot, that we have a relationship with him. This is what it means to be B'Tselem Elohim, to be made in the image of God. It's not the physical body, but it is your spirit and your soul that is created in the image of God. And so he says, Vayomer Elohim na'asa Adam b'tzamanu kidmutenu vidgat chayam uv'ov chashamayim uv'abchema uv'kol haaretz uv'kol haremes acharetz. God said, let us make mankind in our image, after our likeness. They shall rule the fish of the sea, the birds of the sky, the cattle, the whole earth, and all the creeping things that creep on the earth. Vayvra Elohim et Adam betzalmo betzelem Elohim bara oto zakar unva bara otam. God created mankind in his divine image, creating him in the image of God, creating them male and female. And so we are created in the image of God. And so one of the things that we've been going through, Josh, go ahead and put the slide up. We've been studying the Sephirot, the Etz Chaim, the tree of life. And we have focused for a month now on Keter, which is at the very top. Keter means crown. This is the throne of God. This is the dwelling place of God. And this demonstrates for us this the attribute here is that of the will of God. Even as Yeshua Mashiach prayed in the garden, not want my will, but your will be done. And as he taught the Talmudim to pray, Avinu, B'Shemayim, our Father in heaven, holy is your name. Your kingdom come, Malchut, your kingdom come. Your will be done on earth, even as it is in heaven. And so we are created in the image of God, so that as God has a will, the will to do, so he has put within mankind, within humanity, also a will. You have a will. You have desires, the things that you would, the things that you want. You have a will. And so as he has a will, you have a will. We've all heard the term, I suppose, the term free will. The freedom to choose. You have a will, and you have free will. You have the freedom to choose. The will of the human being is the most all-encompassing power of your existence. This is the most powerful entity within you, because it is your will which literally drives your life, drives you forward. It is your will that causes you to reach out. To, as it is said, reach for the future. Or as it is said, to reach for the stars. It is your will that propels you. Your will is a gift from God. The animal kingdom does not have this will, this determination that we have. And so, animals will oftentimes, under stress, under duress, will give up. We've all had pets. I had a beagle about, 20 years ago. I had a beagle. In fact, we got the beagle when Richard was a little boy. Huh? Evie's age, 10 years old. That beagle lived almost 20 years. That beagle, her name was Copper. The boys named her after the fox and the hound. The beagles don't bark. They bay. They howl. They can't bark. And so she would howl, and we would get her howling, and she would sit there and howl. And we found out that she loved chocolate. Chocolates are poisonous to dogs. It's a bad drug for dogs. But she would get into the chocolate. She would get into the chocolate. She would eat it. And then she'd be sick for a week. She would be like drugged, and she'd be, she'd go lay down somewhere, and she'd be barfing everywhere and everything. She did not learn her lesson. She would, next time, eat all the chocolate again. She'd go find chocolate, and she'd eat it. But we came home from work one day, and she was missing. And she had been sickly. She was old, and she was sickly. And this is what dogs do. They will just go find a place to hide and lay down and die. Animals do this. They give up. Now, she was old, but even young animals will do this. They get to a point where the stress is too much. The duress is too much. And they'll just give up and die. We raised sheep for quite a while. You know that sheep it's almost like they want to die. I mean, the least little thing, and they just keel over. They just die. And nobody knows why. I studied it and I studied it. Nobody knows why. They just give up the will to live, and they'll just keel over and die. God has given you a will. It is the most powerful entity in your existence, in your being. And one of the greatest wills that God has placed within us is the will to live. We want to live. We want to survive. But your will is the most encompassing power in your existence. And this is what gives you motivation. This is what motivates us. We're going to find, however, that where God uses all of the sephirot, all of the attributes, in purity, in holiness, in righteousness, in justice, in a way that is intended for our good. We have the ability to misuse and to abuse the attributes that God places within us. Saying what? We can choose to do that which is good and just and holy and chase after God, or we can choose to chase after the world. We can choose, we can will ourselves, we can be motivated to chase after those spiritual things, those eternal things. Or we can choose to chase after the physical things, the things of this life and the things of this world. Yeshua talks about this very thing when he tells us, do not lay for yourselves treasures here on earth, where rust corrupts and moth destroys and robbers break in and steal. He says, but rather lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, because there the rust cannot corrupt, the moth cannot destroy, and no robber can break in and steal. Saying what? The things that you lay up for in the world to come, in Olam Haba, the world to come, are forever. They're eternal. The things that you lay up in this life are only temporary. This life and this world is temporary. And we confuse the two. We mix them up. We live as though this world and this life is eternal and the world to come is some temporary thing, some by and by, in the blue, some wild thing, some dream. We must come to the place in our life where we must come to the conclusion in our hearts and our mind that the things of God, that the things of heaven, that the things of the spiritual world are literally more real than the things of this life and this world. Because the things of this life and this world pass away. Saying this, whether you are in the depths of poverty or whether you are a multi-billionaire, you still end up in a 3-foot by 6-foot by 6-foot hole in the ground. Do you understand me? That's the end of this. In the book of Ecclesiastes, Shlomo HaMelech, Solomon the king, speaks to these very things. When he says vanity, vanity, everything is vanity. The word vanity, in our mind today, it's like to be vain means to be proud. But the Old English word vanity means to be empty, worthless, to be of no worth. Shlomo talks about this fact that a man will go to work and live his life slaving away so that he can build his house and save up bank accounts and have many possessions, only to die and go and be put into a hole in the ground, and someone else gets all of his stuff. And it is this that Yeshua is referring when he says, don't be laying up stuff in this life where you don't keep it. Rather, lay up treasures in eternity where it is yours forever. Saying, God invites us to, God encourages us to get out of the rat race. God did not intend that kind of life for us. He does not intend for us to focus on the physical, on the secular, because these things are spiritless. Your house has no spirit. Your job has no spirit. Your car has no spirit. The things of this world and this life have no spirit. They're temporary. And God tells us, do not chase after those things. Because in the end, they bring us nothing but heartache and sorrow. If that's where we're placing our hope, if that's where we're placing our value, then in reality, we have nothing. Because we leave this life the same way we entered it, with nothing. And so again, Shlomo the king says, you entered this world, this life, with nothing, and you shall leave it the same way. Naked I came into the world, and naked I shall leave it. You don't take it with you. In 2003, my father passed away. He didn't take the home with him. He didn't take the property with him. He didn't take the cars with him. He didn't take the bank accounts with him. He had a collection of old coins, very valuable. They're still here. He's gone. The house is still there. He's gone. The property is still there. He's gone. April 1st, a few months ago, my mother also left this world. She took nothing with her. The house is still there. The properties are still there. The money's still there. The old coins, they're still there. You don't take it with you. And so Yehoshua, as he was getting ready to cross over to leave this life to join his fathers in the world to come, gathered all of the people of Israel to him, and he says to them, your fathers served other gods in the land of Egypt. And the people around you are serving other gods. You can be like them, or you can do what God has commanded you to do. Choose this day whom you will serve. Choose. God has given you will, the freedom of choice. And you can follow whatever is in your heart to follow. And this is the most powerful entity, the most powerful gift that God has given you. And this is what gives you motivation to do. If you want to know where your will is, where your heart is, look at what you're chasing. Because that's the reality. It's not the words you speak. It's what you do. That's the reality. If a person has a will for something, he begins to invent ways in which to achieve the goal. Saying, once you have discovered a theoretical method of achieving your goal, you will start to plan out how to achieve the reality of it. And from there, you will initiate the action to do it. And as long as you have not achieved that goal, you will press towards that. What does this mean? When you want to do something, you figure out a way to do it. Or, as the old saying is, where there's a will, there's a way. The reason why, hear me, the reason why we do what we do is because that's our true will. We do what we do because that's what we want to do. When I have a will, when I have a desire, I will figure out a way to achieve what it is that I desire. You don't think so? Do you ever have a boyfriend or a girlfriend? How did you get there? Didn't just happen. He sees her. He looks at her. And he says, I want her. So what does he do? He begins to devise. It sounds bad, doesn't it? He begins to devise a means of gaining her, of winning her. And so he begins the flirtations. He doesn't care. Mind you, watch. He doesn't care if he looks silly, if he looks foolish, so long as he gets the girl. His friends will laugh at him and make fun of him. He will do silly things. He will do foolish things. He'll do dumb things to get her attention. He will do everything within his means to capture her heart. Where there's a will, there's a way. But ladies, you're not innocent in all of this. Because you will bat the eyes and flip the hair, turn the head. You cock your head in a certain position. These are all subtleties. Saying what? I want you. I would like to, this is the way we put it, I would like to get to know you better. We are taught as children to begin planning out. We're taught as young people to begin planning out. What are your goals in life? We ask our children, what do you want to be when you grow up? Why? Because you see, we're actually prepping them for the next question, which is, how are you going to get there? I have taken a couple of my sons and taken them to the side and said, look, what are your goals for life? What are your goals? Where are you going? Where are you headed with your life? What is it that you want to do? And when they told me, then I told them, how are you going to get there? What are the steps to ensure that you get there? When we really want something, when we truly desire something, we will begin to invent ways in which to achieve the goals. Saying, if we really want God in our lives, we will devise ways to get God into our lives. If it is really my will to be spiritual, then I will find ways to be spiritual. The same way that when I want something in this physical world, when it is my desire, when this is what I really want, I figure out a way to do it. Where there is a will, there is a way. And the same is true in my spiritual life. When I truly want to walk close with God, when I truly want Him to be near me, when I truly want to live for Him, I will find a way to do these things. Saying what? Too many times it's a flash in the pan. Too many times it's just an emotional response. Too many times it's that new glittery thing. Remember when you were growing up and that new fad came through and you just had to do it, you just had to have it? How long did that last? I remember when I was in 5th grade, a new toy came out. And everybody had to have this toy. They were called knockers. They were hard plastic balls with a string in them. There were 2 of them. And the way they worked is you would move your hand up and down and the balls would start knocking each other. You remember? You remember? And so you would see your friends walking down the street, walking down the sidewalk, or walking around the school, and they would have these knockers and they'd be walking around. The problem is that to learn how to use them, you practically had to break your arm because they were hard, solid plastic, almost like glass. They were about this big around. There were 2 of them. So when you start going like this, they're going like this. And so they're beating up your arm. And so kids would come to school with bruises all up and down their arm, black and blue. Practicing learning how to use this toy. The company had to quit making them because they got sued. Not so much for the bruises all up and down everybody's arms, but because the kids would start doing it so hard that they would actually shatter and come flying in your face and cut you and the people around you. I don't know of any of my friends today that still have their knockers. Saying it's for a moment. It's a fad. It's the shiny new thing. This car model comes out, everybody wants one. That car model comes out, everybody wants one. This house design, that house design, this and that, this and that. The problem is once you have attained, it loses its luster. Just like the toys when you were growing up. Once you get it. It's amazing. If y'all don't mind. My grandchildren have 1,000 toys. Everywhere. And almost every day I hear at least one of them say, I don't have anything to play with. I don't have. And I'm like, what in the world? You have like 5 big boxes full of toys. And you don't have anything to play with. Well, I don't want to play with that. Well, I don't want to play with that. And usually it is one of the children has something and they're enjoying themselves and they're having fun. And so the other one becomes jealous. They want to have that. They want to have their fun too. And so they start crying because he or she won't share. Except we're the same way. We just make it adult. You see, men are boys with adult toys. And we want, and we want, and we want, and we want. And when we finally get, we devise a way to get something. And then when we get it, it loses its glamour. It loses the sparkle. It loses the shine. And now we want something else. You don't believe it? Come on. How many of you have a car? Is it a decent car? I.e., it's got wheels on it, works, not the Flintstone brakes, the actual brakes. How long does it take when you get a new car that you're driving by the car lot and you're looking out the eye? Oh, look, there's that one. Oh, look, there's that one. Oh, look, there's that one. And your new car is like jealous. You just got me. And now you're looking at her. Because the things of this life do not bring satisfaction. It has been said that when a man becomes rich, he becomes never rich enough. No man ever has enough money. This is why millionaires and billionaires are still out there, beating the money out of the trees, because it's never enough. Why? Because the things of this life and this world do not bring satisfaction to the human soul and the human spirit. And so I'm going to ask you today, what is your true goal? What is the reality today of what you are after? What is it that's really within your heart? What is it that's driving you forward? Understand that this will, this attribute comes from God, not to drive you forward in this physical life, but to drive you forward towards Him, to motivate you to have a relationship, a closer relationship, a better relationship with Him. It's about Him. But we take this gift of God and we misuse it and we abuse it to get closer to the things of this world. We allow it to be manipulated to motivate us to gain more stuff here, now, that we cannot take with us. That in the end becomes empty, useless, of no purpose to us. We slave all of our lives to gain those things which we cannot keep, only to lose the things that we can. There was a missionary in the early 1950s. He went to Moody Bible Institute. His name was Nate Saint. And he and 4 other missionaries and their wives determined to go to a tribe of Indians in South America called the Aucas. It was a tribe that had seldom been introduced to European people. They were very hard, vicious, you would say, concerning outsiders, brutal. Nate Saint had an airplane, which he flew over the jungles looking for these tribes, and they found a village. And they devised a way to lower a bucket out of the airplane with a long rope. And they would lower the bucket, and they would have little gifts like knives, pans, utensils. And they would lower these things with the bucket. And the Aucas began to respond by placing trinkets back in the bucket. They would lower a hammer or something down with the bucket. They would lower it down to the village below. The Aucas would respond by placing a necklace or trinkets in the bucket, and they would haul it back up. And so they decided to make contact. They landed on a river beach. And the Aucas came, recognizing the airplane. They came out of the woods, sat and spoke with the missionaries. Disappeared. This went on for a few days. They would disappear back into the jungles. They would reappear, disappear, reappear, disappear. They came out one day. The missionaries were sitting on a tree trunk on the side of the river, talking. And the Aucas came out of the jungle and shot and speared to death the 5 missionaries. If you are familiar with I don't even know if she's still alive anymore, but back in the 80s and 90s, she used to come on the radio, which would be on KVMB all the time. Her name was Elizabeth Elliot. Her husband was one of those missionaries. Nate Saint had written in his journal while he was still in college, a couple of years before his death, he wrote these words. He is no fool who loses what he cannot keep to gain what he cannot lose. Hear the words. He is no fool who gives up what he cannot keep in order to gain what he cannot lose. This world is full of fools chasing after what they can never keep and losing Yeshua asked the question, what does a man gain? What does a man gain if he gains the whole world and he loses his soul? So you have houses and cars and land and bank accounts and all manner of possessions, but what is it to you when you pass from this life to the next and you found out that you have nothing there? Choose this day whom you will serve, but understanding that your choice has eternal consequences. You see, everything that God has created is created with a purpose. You say, then, are you saying it's wrong for me to have a car? No. But that's not the goal of your life. The goal of your life is to have communion, to have a close relationship with God, your Creator. And if you're working and slaving, chasing after, devising, scheming so that you can gain physical things out of this life, then you're acting the fool. Because the whole purpose of this life is not about this life, but the life to come. Because this life is passing away, but the world to come will never pass away. And the purpose of everything that God has created, the purpose of everything that He gives to you, the purpose of everything in life is to set your eyes on Him, to draw you closer to Him. He is wooing you as a boy would woo a girl. He even does things that seems foolish to the angels and to people to garner your attention. Like sacrificing His own Son. It is foolishness, Rav Shaul says. The cross is foolishness to those who do not believe. And yet He has done what appears to be foolish in order to gain your affection. We love Him because He first loved us and gave Himself for us. The aim of every plane of reality is to reveal the infinite light of God to you. Everything is there to draw your attention to the Creator, including the car you drive, the house in which you live, your furniture, your bank account, your job, everything that God has given to us. He's given to us to attract our attention to Him. So when I was a boy, early teenager, There was a young lady who started coming to church, came to youth camp. She was attractive. And I got a crush. So she came to camp. And one of the camp counselors had given me a quarter. Back then, a quarter was a big deal. That's a week worth of sodas. They were 5 cents. So a quarter could have bought you 5 sodas. Or 5 candy bars. And for those of us who were very poor, that was a big deal. So this camp counselor gave me a quarter. I had a crush on this young lady. I wanted to attract her attention. I wanted to demonstrate for her. So I took that valuable quarter and I gave it to her. Thinking what? Oh, she'll appreciate this and she'll like me and she'll look at me and we'll go off into the sunset holding hands. No. Wrong. I handed her the quarter. Watch. I handed her the quarter. My younger brother was standing there when I handed her the quarter. Watch. She literally took the quarter out of my hand and turned around and handed it to my brother. Somebody please take the knife out. That was mean. That was vicious. She could have at least waited until I disappeared, or she did it right there in front of me. I mean, like a puppy dog, she took my nose and rubbed it. That, my friend, is exactly what we do with God. When He has given to us all of this, everything you have, it's from Him. Your husband, your wife, your children, your parents, your grandchildren, everything. The food you eat, the house in which you live, the car you drive, the jobs we have, it's all from Him. It's all from Him. And right there, while He's standing there and watching, we take these things and rather than expressing gratitude, we give them over to the flesh. We give them over to the other side. He gives you these things so that you may look at Him, that you would notice Him, so that you would have a relationship with Him, so that you would draw closer to Him. But rather than drawing closer to Him, you push Him away without even a thank you or a word of gratitude to Him. You push Him away and you consume yourself on the possession. We consume ourselves on the gifts rather than on the giver. Hear me. We consume ourselves on the gifts rather than the giver. The will of God. People say they want to know the will of God. What is the will of God? For you to have a close relationship with Him. That's what He wants. has done all of this to say, look at me. I'm here. I love you with an everlasting love. I love you so much. I gave myself for you. I love you so much. I died for you. I took up a human body. I stooped to your level. And I took up a human body and allowed myself to be defamed. Allowed myself to be shamed. Allowed myself to be beaten and broken and bruised. And I died in a shameful way for you. I did all of this for you. And yet, you go racing. You go chasing after another one. After something else. We're going to close here, but this morning's Haftarah was from the book of Jeremiah. If you were listening, you heard God accuse Israel of something. In Jeremiah chapter 2 and verse 20, he says, indeed, long ago I broke your yoke and tore off your bonds. You said, I will never serve. Instead, on every high hill, under every green tree, you sprawled out like a prostitute. Yet I had planted you as a choice vine from completely faithful seed. How then did you become to me a wandering wild vine? Even though you wash with lye and you use abundance of soap, the stain of your iniquity is before me. It is a declaration of the Lord Adonai. How can you say I'm not defiled? I've not gone after the Baalim, the false gods, the idols. Look at your behavior in the valley. Recognize what you have done. You are a swift young camel galloping aimlessly. Now listen to these words. You are a wild donkey used to the wilderness. Listen to these words. Sniffing the wind for passion. Do you understand what he's saying? You see, when a horse or a donkey or a cow or any animal, when the female is in heat, she gives off pheromones. She gives off certain odors that the males can smell. And they know that that animal is in heat. This is why you always see animals sniffing each other. And he says, you're like a donkey, sniffing the air for another female in heat. When I was young, my dad bought us a pony. It was a male, and he was mean. When you got on his back, he would turn around and nip your leg. Thus he gained the name Nipper. That pony was stubborn. And we would be out there riding him. We'd come home after school and we'd get on him. And he'd be there walking, and pretty soon he would begin trotting. And before too long, he was in a full gallop. And we couldn't get him to stop, and we couldn't get him to turn. He was headed east. Because about 2 miles away from us on a canal bank was a mare, and the mare was always in heat. And you'll excuse me, he wanted a piece of that. And so he would start walking in that direction. We'd try to pull him, and he would jerk his head, and we'd pull him, and he'd jerk his head. And if he got frustrated with you, he would try to turn around and nip you, because he knew what he wanted, and he was going to get what he wanted, come literally hell or high water. He didn't care. And before long, the walk turned into a trot, and before long, and you could see him, his nose would be in the air, and you could see him sniff in the air. And we knew that horse, that mare, 2 miles away was in heat. And we tried to rein him in. Nope, he was having none of it. He was going for that mare. And eventually, whoever was riding him would have to jump off. He would be posted on the canal bank. He would chew through his rope. We always knew where to find him. 2 miles away with the mare. Dad would get frustrated. We had a station wagon, and Dad would drive the station wagon there, get the horse, tie the rope around the pony, tie it to the bumper of the car, and Dad would take off, making him run for his life. And he would yank back, and that car was bigger and stronger than he was, and that car would just jerk the neck. We thought several times that it had broken his neck. Dad was having none of it. That's what God is saying about us. You're like that pony. You're sniffing the air. Here, I've done all of this for you. I've given everything for you. I've done all I can do. I even gave my own son's life for you. And there you are, sniffing the air. It's not enough. It's not good enough. And you throw it in my face. With me standing right here watching you, you throw it in my face. Do you see how sad this is? Do you see how heartbreaking this is to God? He's done everything for you and me. Everything. And we just throw it in his face like it's nothing. He gave you a will. He created you. He created you like him. He gave you a will. So that you would have a means to choose him and love him, and that you would want him of your own choice. And he says, look, I've done all of this for you. Now, what is your will to him? His will was to love you, to have a relationship with you. That's his will. What's your choice? What is your choice? And if my choice is to truly serve him, I'll find a way. Because where there's a will, there's a way. When you were in love, did you not find a way to express that love to your boyfriend, to your girlfriend? Did you not find a way? Can I not find a way? When it comes to God and the spiritual things of my life, can I not find a way? If I can't find a way to serve him, if I can't find a way to have a relationship with him, the truth is this: I truly don't desire that in my life. That's not what I want. Because if it's really what I want, I'll find a way. That's the truth. But he's not going to wait forever for you to come around. I didn't wait for that young lady. She threw the quarter in my face. I didn't wait for her. I don't even think about her. I just thought about her today as I was teaching. I hadn't thought about her in years. I just thought about that incident as I was looking at this. God's not going to wait on you forever. There's a deadline, and it's fast upon us. We're running out of time. Not only because death approaches each of us and we don't know when that moment is, but also the Messiah is coming. He's in the field. He's on his way. These are the last days. You're seeing the world explode before your eyes. You're seeing the enemy hard at work. And yet, we're throwing our relationship with God to the wind. And yet, we're throwing it in his face, all that he's done for us. And yet, we refuse to be thankful and show gratitude and express our gratitude to him. Rather, we show him insolence, frustration, anger. And he's asking you the question today, what more can I do? What more can be done to win your heart and your soul? Our Father, our King, I love you. I thank you for loving me first. For not only all of this that you've given to us through creation, but then to send your only begotten Son to win our hearts and our souls, to save us, to buy us eternal life in your kingdom. Lord, help us to think seriously on these things as we leave this place and go to our homes and as we continue through this week. Keep in our mind and our heart why I am here. Why am I here? What's my purpose? What are you to me? Who are you to me? Holy Spirit of God, please, please place within our hearts the desire to serve you, to live for you, to put aside everything else, and to take seriously our purpose in being here. I ask this in the name of our Messiah, our Lord Yeshua. Through his name and through his merit we ask. And all God's people said, let's all stand. Lift up your hands for the blessing. Yevareka Adonai v'yishmereka, El Adonai panav elecha, v'yifuneka, Yisa Adonai panav elecha, v'yasem lecha shalom. May Adonai bless you and keep you. May Adonai shine his face upon you and be gracious unto you. May Adonai shine his countenance upon you and fill you with peace. From the Prince of Peace, Yeshua Mashiach, in room